What could make the reign of Charles VIII, the King of France from 1824 to 1830 so controversial? To answer this, we must first travel back to the year 1757, to the birth of Charles. Born into the opulence and grandeur of the French court, Charles was cradled in privilege from the start. His family was the embodiment of the French aristocracy, their bloodline tracing back through centuries of kings and queens. As he grew up, this world of excess and power would shape his character and influence his future actions. In the heart of this lavish lifestyle, Charles found love and companionship with Marie-Thérèse of Savoy. Their union, filled with passion and intrigue, gave birth to 2 sons, continuing the royal lineage. However, Charles was not a man of singular affection. His numerous extramarital affairs added a layer of scandal to his already controversial life. Among the ladies of the court, one relationship stood out. Charles and Marie Antoinette shared a close bond, a friendship that would later be marred by false accusations of seduction. These allegations, though untrue, would add fuel to the fire of his contentious reign. This man, born into a world of privilege and controversy, would one day become a symbol of division in France. As Charles matured, so did his taste for power and influence. But what was his path to the throne like? Allow us to delve into the political rise of this intriguing figure. Charles was not one to shy away from the political sphere. His belief in the absolute monarchy, a system where the monarch has supreme authority, was unwavering. He held firm on this belief, even in the face of growing support for liberal reforms. Charles's political views were not limited to the monarchy's structure. He was a staunch supporter of fiscal reform, recognizing the need for economic stability. But while he saw the need for change in some areas, he was adamant about maintaining the status quo in others. The privileges enjoyed by the church and the nobility were areas where Charles was unwilling to compromise. In his eyes, these privileges were fundamental to the fabric of French society. One of the defining features of Charles's political career was his relationship with the Third Estate. The Third Estate, which represented the common people of France, was increasingly demanding a voice in governance. Charles, however, was not willing to yield to these demands. He held firm in his belief that the monarchy, the church, and the nobility should hold the reins of power. In line with his uncompromising stance, Charles made a move that would have far-reaching effects. He attempted to depose the Liberal Minister of Finance, Jacques Necker. Necker was seen as a champion of the common people, and his dismissal by Charles was met with widespread disapproval. Charles's actions, particularly his dismissal of Necker, would ignite a spark that led to the storming of the Bastille and the beginning of the French Revolution. Charles's rise to power, therefore, was not just a personal journey, but a series of events that would change the course of history. Once crowned king, Charles's reign was anything but peaceful. What made it so controversial? Let's dive into that. Charles VIII, the King of France from 1824 until 1830, was known for his staunch support of absolute monarchy and his opposition to liberal reforms. His reign was marked by a series of conservative policies that were deeply unpopular among liberals. Among these policies was his approval of the French conquest of Algeria. This move, seen by many as an unjust and aggressive act of colonialism, sparked widespread controversy and disapproval. The Algerian conquest was just one of several instances in which Charles demonstrated his disregard for the liberal ideals of self-determination and national sovereignty. In a similar vein, Charles enforced a hefty indemnity on Haiti, a move that further tarnished his reputation. This financial burden served to deepen the economic hardships faced by the Haitian people, further straining relations between France and its former colony. Charles's reign was also marked by a notable political shift. He appointed a staunchly conservative government, much to the dismay of the burgeoning liberal faction within France. This decision led to a decisive defeat in the 1830 election, a clear signal of the public's growing dissatisfaction with his rule. The final straw, however, came with Charles's issue of the July Ordinances. These decrees, which included censorship of the press and dissolution of the parliament, were seen as a blatant attack on the principles of democracy and freedom of expression. The liberal opposition was swift and fierce, leading to the July Revolution. This uprising, a powerful testament to the people's desire for political change, resulted in Charles's abdication. Forced to relinquish his throne, Charles found himself in exile, a fallen king ousted by the very people he had sought to rule with an iron fist. Charles's controversial reign and unyielding stance on his conservative policies would lead to his downfall and ultimate abdication. As we will see in our next scene, his final years were spent far from the grandeur and power of the French court. Scene script: exiled and dethroned, what became of Charles Ix, the once King of France? Charles Ix, a man of staunch absolutist views, found himself at odds with the changing tides of his nation. The July Revolution of 1830, sparked by Charles's controversial July ordinances, was the final blow to his already shaky rule. The French people, tired of his opposition to liberal reforms, rose up in rebellion, forcing Charles to abdicate the throne. Upon his abdication, Charles went into exile, a far cry from the opulent halls of Versailles he once roamed as king. His final years were spent in relative obscurity, a stark contrast to the pomp and circumstance of his reign. He lived out the rest of his days in a foreign land, far from the country he had once ruled with an iron fist. Charles X passed away in the year 1836, 6 years after his abdication. In the grand tapestry of French history, Charles X's reign stands as a testament to the tumultuous relationship between monarchy and the burgeoning wave of liberalism. His steadfast support of absolute monarchy and his opposition to reforms placed him at odds with his people and ultimately led to his downfall. His reign, though controversial, played a significant role in shaping the course of French history. Charles X's legacy is a complex one. His reign was marked by division and controversy, and yet his impact on France is undeniable. His actions, both good and bad, played a significant role in shaping the nation we know today. His reign may have been short and his policies may have been divisive, but his influence on French history is irrefutable. Charles X, a man born into privilege and controversy, left behind a reign marked by division and a legacy that would forever shape the history of France.